Most people believe the way to deal with toxic people is to explain themselves better, set the record straight, or finally say the perfect thing that makes the other person understand. That rarely works, because toxicity isn't a misunderstanding, it's a pattern. And once you recognize that, your strategy changes. Toxic people don't communicate to connect. They communicate to control, to provoke emotion, to pull you into reaction. The moment you react emotionally, they win. Not because they're right, but because they've gained access to your energy. The most powerful way to deal with toxic people is not confrontation, it's not proving your point. It's emotional disengagement paired with clear boundaries. Calm is not weakness here. Calm is insulation. When you stop reacting, you stop rewarding the behavior. Notice how toxic dynamics survive. They survive on explanations, on arguments, on you trying to be understood. But clarity doesn't come from explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. That's where boundaries come in. Boundaries don't require speeches. They don't require justification. They don't require approval. A boundary is simply a decision about what you will and will not participate in. Short, clear, calm. The less you explain, the stronger the boundary becomes. Toxic people push back hardest when they feel access closing. That pushback is not a sign you're wrong. It's a sign the boundary is working. Detachment is often misunderstood as coldness. It isn't. Detachment is choosing not to personalize behavior. That was never about you to begin with. You don't detach to punish, you detach to protect. Silence becomes powerful here. Not silent treatment, silence with intention. You stop filling the space, you stop defending, you stop responding to bait. And something interesting happens. Without emotional fuel, toxic behavior collapses under its own weight. They either escalate or disengage. Both outcomes restore your control. You are not required to attend every argument you're invited to. You are not obligated to fix people who refuse self-reflection. And you are not responsible for managing someone else's emotional regulation. Self-respect changes the entire dynamic. When you respect yourself, you stop negotiating your peace. You don't announce this shift. You embody it. Your tone stays even. Your words stay minimal. Your boundaries stay firm. And over time, toxic people stop targeting you. Not because you fought harder, but because you became unavailable to manipulation. The most powerful way to deal with toxic people is not to beat them at their game. It's to stop playing entirely. Calm, clear, unavailable. That's not avoidance. That's strength. Toxic behavior is about control, not communication. At first glance, toxic interactions often look like misunderstandings, personality clashes, or poor communication skills. It's easy to believe that if you could just explain yourself more clearly, choose better words, or stay calmer, the situation would improve. But this assumption misses the core issue. Toxic behavior is rarely driven by a desire to understand or be understood. It is driven by a need to dominate, influence, or destabilize. True communication seeks clarity. It allows space for listening, reflection, and mutual adjustment. Control does the opposite. Control narrows the conversation. It provokes emotional responses, distorts facts, and shifts focus away from resolution and toward power. When someone repeatedly ignores context, escalates minor issues, or twists your words, they are not failing to communicate. They are exerting control. One of the clearest signs of this is how toxic people respond when you stay calm. Instead of meeting calm with calm, they often intensify, volume increases. Accusations sharpen. The goal is no longer the topic at hand, it's to pull you out of balance. Emotional reaction becomes leverage. The moment you react defensively, they gain influence over the interaction. This is why logic rarely works in toxic exchanges. Logical explanations assume a shared goal of understanding. Toxic behavior operates under a different goal entirely. The aim is not to resolve the issue, but to keep you engaged, unsettled, or self-doubting. Confusion serves that aim, clarity threatens it. Control also shows up in moving goalposts. No matter how clearly you respond, the issue changes. What was acceptable yesterday is suddenly unacceptable today. Apologies are dismissed. Boundaries are challenged. This constant shifting keeps you off balance and searching for the right response. The search itself becomes the trap. Another hallmark of control-driven behavior is selective listening. Toxic individuals often hear only what supports their narrative. They ignore explanations that don't serve them and latch onto fragments they can twist. This isn't misunderstanding, it's strategic attention. By controlling what is acknowledged, they control the emotional direction of the exchange. Toxic behavior also thrives on repetition. The same conflicts replay with different details but identical dynamics. This repetition is not accidental. It reinforces hierarchy. Each cycle drains energy and reinforces the idea that you must keep proving, defending, or fixing. Control strengthens as you exhaust yourself trying to restore balance. Importantly, toxic behavior does not always look aggressive. It can appear passive, subtle, or even polite. Sarcasm, guilt, withdrawal, and feigned confusion can all serve the same controlling function. The common thread is not tone but outcome. If you consistently feel smaller, more confused, or more responsible after interactions, control is at work. Understanding that toxicity is about control changes your response. You stop trying to persuade. You stop over-explaining. You recognize that more communication will not create clarity because clarity is not the goal. This realization is freeing. It allows you to shift from engagement to boundaries. Boundaries disrupt control because they remove access. They don't argue, they don't negotiate, they simply define limits. Control requires participation. Boundaries withdraw it. This is why toxic individuals often react strongly to boundaries. They feel the loss of influence. Calm detachment is not indifference, it is strategic awareness. It acknowledges the pattern without internalizing it. When you remain calm and limit engagement, you stop providing the emotional fuel that control depends on. The interaction loses momentum. Silence can also be revealing. When you stop responding, the intent becomes clearer. Control-driven behavior often escalates when ignored, exposing its true nature. This escalation is not your fault. It is evidence of the underlying dynamic. Recognizing control also protects your self-perception. Toxic interactions often leave you questioning yourself. Was I unclear? Did I overreact? Did I cause this? Understanding the motive behind the behavior interrupts that self-doubt. You realize that the confusion was not accidental. It was part of the dynamic. Ultimately, seeing toxic behavior for what it is allows you to reclaim agency. You stop trying to win conversations and start protecting your energy. You choose where to engage and where to step back. Control loses power when it is no longer mistaken for communication. Emotional reactions feed toxic people. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths to accept because it forces a shift in how we see conflict. Most people believe emotional reactions are natural responses to disrespect, manipulation, or unfair treatment. And they are. But in toxic dynamics, those reactions don't just express feeling, they become fuel. They keep the cycle alive. Toxic people thrive on emotional engagement. Anger, frustration, defensiveness, guilt, even over-justification, all signal that they have reached you. That signal is power. It confirms influence. The content of your reaction matters far less than the fact that you reacted at all. Whether you argue, cry, explain, or lash out, the dynamic remains the same. Attention has been secured. This is why toxic interactions often feel draining rather than productive. There is motion without progress. Energy is spent, but nothing resolves. Emotional reactions keep the focus on managing feelings instead of addressing patterns. And patterns are where the real issue lies. One reason emotional reactions are so effective for toxic individuals is predictability. Once they learn what triggers you, they can pull that lever repeatedly. Tone changes, subtle insults, dismissive comments, these are not random. They are tests. Each test checks how easily your emotional state can be shifted. When it works, the behavior is reinforced. Emotional reactions also shift the narrative. When you react strongly, attention moves away from the original behavior and toward your response. You become the problem. Overreacting, or dramatic. This reversal protects the toxic behavior and puts you on defense. Control is reestablished through confusion. Defensiveness is especially feeding. Explaining yourself assumes the other person is seeking understanding. In toxic dynamics, that assumption becomes a vulnerability. Each explanation gives them more material to distort, dismiss, or weaponize. The more you try to clarify, the deeper you're pulled in. Even calm emotional reactions can feed toxicity if they involve over-engagement. Repeated attempts to reason, soothe,